Hi, so I'm here with Sammy Mueller, who is just graduated from University of Virginia, played lacrosse there, and is now transferring to Northwestern for her last year of eligibility. And my first question for you, Sammy, is after this season was canceled, how did you make the decision to transfer, and what was it like going through the transfer process with COVID and everything else going on?
Yeah, so academics have always been pretty important to me, and I had a job lined up after school. So to defer that, I really kind of needed a program that would kind of further my business education. And unfortunately, UVA, or I guess fortunately,
Yeah.
have a great master's program that would have done
Mhm.
or that I was interested in. So that allowed me to kind of make the decision to look elsewhere to see what kind of the best fit would be. And I mean, Northwestern's lacrosse program obviously speaks for itself, but on top of that, it was just, they had a great academic program that really fit kind of my career goals.
Definitely. So once, obviously, the first step for you was entering the transfer portal, and then what were kind of the subsequent steps that you took in that process?
Yeah, so obviously, given the uncertainty with COVID, the first kind of week or so was just a lot of calls from coaches just saying like we're interested. We obviously don't know what's the league's going to decide, what the NCAA is going to decide, so we have to kind of wait until we hear that. But just wanted to know, like, let you know that I'm interested, and so it was just kind of keeping up and trying to kind of cast as wide of a net as possible, and then start narrowing it down from there as to what academic programs would actually fit, what lacrosse programs and culture-wise would be great for me. And then once the NCAA kind of made that decision to make it final that everyone gets an extra year, and then individual leagues allowed transfers, that allowed me to narrow it down even more. And then it was just kind of talking with coaches. I did some Zoom tours of some campuses, given that couldn't visit them in person. And
Mhm.
it was just trying to ultimately find the right fit. I talked to some players on some teams, and just kind of narrowing it down to where I think I would fit in well with the culture, and then kind of what lacrosse program and academic program would be best.
And were there any main requirements when you were communicating with coaches that you had to meet as a transfer student academically or just in general?
I think especially as a kind of fifth year, like grad transfer, the kind of academic teams have less pull with the with the admissions committee. So it's still kind of, you have to keep up your grades and have a good undergraduate record. But just again, kind of on that other advice, just always kind of keeping your academics at a high level, so that it's never a kind of a question of will I get in or not? Will this program work? It's always kind of like just keeping your option, or allowing you to have more options. So academic requirements, it was just kind of strong grades. And then given COVID, a lot of the admissions tests were actually canceled, which was pretty helpful. So didn't have to take like the GMAT or anything, which was pretty nice.
Yeah. And then with communicating with coaches, how did you go about, I guess, communicating with the coaches of the schools that you were considering transferring to, and then communicating with your UVA coach, just the communication in general? How did you kind of go about that?
Yeah, I mean, when it was first kind of introductory calls, like figuring out kind of who was interested, it was just kind of responding to their emails in a kind of short time frame, so that they weren't waiting and it wasn't kind of rude. So it was definitely responding. And if I was interested, I would respond and kind of set up a call. Otherwise, else I'd politely let them know that at this time I was pursuing other options that were better fits for me, both academically and athletically. And then once it kind of got more serious, it was just being honest with them. And once I knew I didn't want to go back to Virginia, it was just being honest with that coach and saying, look, I had a great 4 years, but I think the best fit for me at this time is to go elsewhere academically. And they were understanding. They were obviously disappointed, but I think, yeah, like the honesty is the best. Down to about 3 or 4 schools, it was again being honest with them about where I was with other schools and where I was leaning. So I never kind of led them on too much to them thinking I was going to commit to them, and then all of a sudden blindsiding them.
Perfect. So you've given a lot of great advice already, but do you have any other advice for any athletes trying to go through the transfer process right now or hoping to transfer during this time?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just a lot of uncertainty. So kind of, um, I guess being patient with the process, if you are, but also just talking to as many people as you can, talking to other people that might be in your shoes, or talking to people on the teams to just get a better feel for um, kind of where you might fit in. And I think it is kind of nerve wracking, I guess, joining a new team and meeting all these people. But it's just if you can kind of get a feel for what the team is like and if you're going to fit in, I think it kind of makes it easier to make a decision.
Absolutely. And then my last piece of advice for you is obviously you had a lot of success from or at Virginia right off the bat, which is really unique, I think, in a top Division I lacrosse program. So do you have any advice to athletes on how they can be successful as first years in a top tier program?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you kind of come in, you're really nervous and you don't want to step on other people's toes, and you're kind of learning a lot, and it's almost like drinking out of a fire hose at first because the college game is very different, but just kind of being a sponge and really kind of absorbing as much as you can and learning as much as you can from other people, but at the same time not being afraid to kind of really show your skills, and also not being afraid to make mistakes and really just going out there and kind of playing the way you play. But on the other side, it's also just being hardworking and kind of putting your head down and really just getting the reps in and putting in the extra work. And coaches will notice, and your teammates will notice, and eventually you'll find your way on the field if you do so.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sammy. I really appreciate it.